Yep, that's me. My name is Danny, and you might be wondering, how does someone like me train for my certain special skills that I have? Now, if you look at my belt, those are the PICO trackers. With those, I can train in mixed reality anywhere, anytime. Put them on a controller or a lightsaber, and you can do some of the training anywhere, anytime. Welcome to Getting Started with PICO Motion Trackers. Let's get started. For this project, we'll have two main scripts, our manager script, then the object tracker that will be instantiated on our object tracker. We'll go over how to create and then remove trackers when you turn off, the prefab needed, then the drone and the laser part for the game elements, and the nice little demo at the end. For this project, we'll be using a previous project from the AnchorManager project, which you can see in another video I can link down below. These are the same requirements, PICOS 5.11, Unity 2022. Okay, back in Unity. Let's go ahead and go to our scenes and clone our AnchorManager scene. We're going to be using part of the AnchorManager, so we want to be able to use a see-through, some of the AnchorManager set up previously. So let's clone that. Let's create a new script, and let's call that MotionTrackerManager. And we're using our namespace, Unity XR PXR. First on wake. What we want to do is make sure we're actually in the right mode for our motion trackers. Our motion trackers can be body tracking or motion tracking. Motion tracking is what we mean for object tracking. So this API will actually call and just check to see if we're actually in motion tracking mode. If you're not, it'll launch the OS app that changes on the motion tracker app, and it'll launch it, allow you to change for the different versions of your motion tracker. So you can switch it to motion tracking if you are in body tracking. Now then we have an event, the motion tracker number of connections. So every time you turn on and turn off a connection, your motion trackers, they will fire off this event. And so you can use this event for various changes, so you know when something's being added or connected or disconnected from your motion trackers. So anything you want to enable, we have to disable, subscribe to event, describe to the event. So state is connected, 0 will be disconnected, and the value is just the number of trackers currently connected. Add a little debug here to let you know what is going on. State, connected, value. Now we're using this here for basically updating our trackers when you need to update it, create something, disconnect something. So just call it UpdateObjectTracker. Then we'll need a few things to kind of set this up. First, you're going to need like a prefab for when you need to create your tracker, your motion tracker. Then we need a couple lists, a connected list, and a disconnected list. So every single time we have this event, we want to get a list of our connected devices, and then when we need to disconnect it, use the disconnect list. Then we'll use a dictionary, we'll call it object tracker map, to map out between the serial numbers to the game objects being created. Just keep track of everything. It allows you to delete it later. You're going to need a motion tracker connect state. We'll create a new one every single time we need to update this object tracker. Then we'll be using a get motion tracker connected state with serial number. And then we'll put that information to motion tracker connect state. The results equal 0, success, no issues. Now this will return a list of motion tracker SN. And this list always, I think it's like 6 elements in it. So some of the elements will be null if there's not enough trackers connected. Right now, max 3, but potentially it could be more later, but we have a value of 6 here. So we want to go through and see which of them are actually populated with some kind of value. So if it has a value, that means you have a tracker connected in that part of that array. So if we seen it before, and if we haven't seen it in our object tracker map, we're going to be creating a new object tracker. So let's create that method. That's going to take a tracker SN. And once it is created, or if you checked if you don't need to create it anymore, we're going to just add it to our connected list. Of course, every single time we do this, we want to clear our list so we have a fresh list of currently connected devices. Here we're going to create a new motion tracker. So it's not in an object tracker map, so we haven't seen this particular serial number before. So we're going to actually create that class, the MotionObjtTracker. This will be on the motion track. So this is going to hold our tracker SN and the serial number. We're going to need both. So tracker SN, and just make it simple, a nice little simple get and set. And we're going to need our serial number as well. And we're going to be using our MotionObjtTracker to update our motion trackers for the position. So this is how you're going to be able to put this on some kind of object and move it around, and Unity will be able to know where this motion tracker is. I'm using fixed update. Fixed update usually updates around like 50 times a second. Update will ideally update 42 times. I think fixed update for the most part does what I need, depending on your project. How many times you really need to update, up to you. All right, update tracking data. So here we're going to be doing, so if their serial number is valid, that means this object has a valid motion tracker already and it's activated. We're going to be using get motion tracker locations. Location is going to give us a locations and a confidence. Location will have some kind of pose data, will have our position and the rotation. This pose data will be in a left, I think in the right-handed coordinate system. Unity defaults to a left-handed, so we're going to have to change it to a vector 3, and the rotation, we have to change that as well. So impose the rotation orientation to quant, quaternion. Okay. No confidence. Then the confidence part is how sure is the data that this is correct. Sometimes you move the tracker away from the view, so you lose some tracking. So we need to actually visually tell the user if the tracking is actually good or not. You can do something with it. Right now, we're going to make it simple. What we want to do is just change the material of a valid material and a bad material. So let's go ahead and set that. So you're going to use a renderer, so we're going to swap out the materials. Then we're going to carry a good material and carry a bad material. So some kind of like green or red or white and red, something to let the user know when you're confident of the position versus you losing tracking, basically. And use a renderer down material, switch them out. Okay. If we don't have anything, we'll just go ahead and look for our renderer and our child. So we'll take care of that in our prefab. So make sure we have our renderer in the child of our motion tracker prefab. Now go back to the motion tracker manager, and we're going to instantiate our motion tracker prefab. Then once we create it, make sure to add it to our object tracker map dictionary using the serial number, and then add our newly created game object. What we're going to do here is get component. I said, okay. And once we have those get component, we're going to be adding the tracker serial number and the tracker SN. And I think mess here. After getting list of active trackers, here we can actually go through and check if our current dictionary has more entries than the actually connected trackers. So you can use our connected list, or you can use tracker sum. Both will tell you the same information. So if our entries are more than our currently connected, that means we have an extra entry in our tracker map. That means something has disconnected, basically. So we're gonna have to, since we're creating these objects, they're gonna have instantiated, and they're gonna have some kind of like prefab on it. We want to be removing these prefabs if we disconnect something. So first, we're gonna go through our object tracker map, and object tracker is gonna have our serial number as item 1, and then the value will be the game object. So item.key will be our serial number. So we're going to look through our newly connected list to see if it actually has our object tracker serial number in it. If it does have it, great, it's still connected. But if we find a serial number that's not in the connected list, we're going to have to add it to our disconnect list. So then out of this for each loop, we're going and go delete it. So let's go ahead and loop through our object tracker map first, add to our list. Of course, every single time we do this, clear our list so we have a fresh, newly disconnected list. After we go through each item in our object tracker map, now we can go through our disconnected list and start deleting. So let's go through. First, we're going to use our serial number, add it to our object tracker map, then we're going to delete the value, which is our game object. Once we delete the game object, we can remove that entry from our map, which is the same as dictionary. Map, dictionary, yeah. Good. Here. Same messed up here, and line 100 there. Of course, we're getting our get component of motion object tracker that's on our prefab. Let's go and create that prefab. It's called MotionObjectPrefab. Inside, we're going to have a nice little capsule. Scale of 0.05, 0.01, and 0.05. We're going to add our text mesh as our text. Call PICO. Looks good. Font size. I'm going a little bit fast, but that's just not coding. It's just kind of things you know how to do in Unity. But of course, you can slow it down or pause it as you need to do. That looks good. Let's use white instead of green. Then add our script, add our render from our capsule, then a good material, add white, and red material, we add red. Add to our prefabs. Make a new one called MotionTrackerManager. And add our see-through from our previous project. Add our prefab to our MotionTrackerManager. Make sure you add our object tracker, our newly object tracker scene. Let's do some cleanup. Change our product name. Looks good. Multi-view. Make sure PICO is enabled here. In our Pixar Manager, make sure you have body tracking on, which is on XR origin. For see-through, you can have HDR off, camera background black, that to floor. And Actually, the rotation is in the wrong way. So let's actually rotate that. And for this project, I want to be having some kind of Jedi-like object in my hand that's connected to our PICO tracker. So we're going to need some kind of physics. So we're going to need some kind of collider that has the same shape and size as my physical lightsaber. So we're going to add a little cube here as my handle, and we'll do a cylinder for the lightsaber itself. Scale 0.04, 0.304. Move that down just a little bit. Of course, you can make this physics capsule colliders, whatever size and shape for your project. For my project, I'm looking for a cylinder because I'm having the shape of our lightsaber. And that's good. Let's save it. And check for, especially if you have URP or any kind of these, go ahead and look and see for screen space ambient occlusion. So make sure you remove that. That's kind of slow down our process, slow down our device when we're in mixed reality. Let's build and test. I'm going to turn it on. As you can see, I'm going to turn off the second one so you can actually see. If you block the tracker, it's going to turn red. Show it again, it snaps it back. That's about the right size for what I'm looking for. Perfect. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Basically, I just wrapped the PICO Motion Tracker around the handle, and it's roughly around the shape I need. Okay. Let's go back to Anchor Manager, and we're going to be using this to basically launch our drones that we're going to be using that's part of the game. ObjGameAnchorManager. Manager. We're going to use it called drones, drone preview. So when you're using the right grip, you have the preview of the drone so you know where to drop it. When you let go, it will instantiate the drone prefab. So this is from a previous project, Anchor Manager. I'll link that tutorial down below. Nice and quick. You don't need these, you don't need these. So we're only caring about the right grip. So when you press it, all these actions happen. It will actually create a spatial anchor of where the drone will be. So on our motion object tracker, we actually want the right primary to really show the mesh of our lightsaber, just so we can adjust our object tracker on our action on our physical object, just to know we can kind of calibrate it. So it'll be like a physical calibration. So it does help when you need to kind of twist it and move it a little bit. So let's copy that right primary code from our manager, add it to our object tracker script. So this is the callback for when you're using input action reference. So we're going to use a bool show mesh. So on right primary, when you press it, we're going to show mesh, do the opposite. And for that, we're going to actually have to get the mesh renderer. It's very similar to a renderer here, but we want specifically our mesh renderer. So this will be our sword mesh. Add it to the bottom. Enabled dot show, whatever it is, at the toggle. That looks good. Okay, we're going to add the ObjGameAnchorManager here. Add the input action references for our buttons. Now we need a drone preview and a drone prefab. So let's bring back our MotionObjtPrefab here. So that's a sword, so we're going to need our drone, so roughly around the same shape as our sword. So let's actually, so let's go save all the changes we did to our prefab. Oh, all right, let's bring it back. Let's show the mesh. And let's create a sphere, 3D object. Let's drop it down to 0.3, maybe a little bit smaller. I think 0.15 is correct. We'll call that our drone. Positioning doesn't matter. We're going to turn this into prefab, just the scales that we're looking for. We're going to just turn it red. Looks good. And let's create our drone control. And first we're going to need our transform for our player. And then I like to do on enable when you are instantiating this drone. Make sure has a reference to the player. Camera.main.transform works well. And doing it this way allows you the drone to always look for the player if the player is moving. Get the direction, player position, minus the transform position. We'll normalize this. Then look rotation, we're going to rotate for that. And then for that rotation, we're going to do a contortion.slurp and try transform. Look rotation and time. I just use 5F. That usually works really well for me in every game I use. So that's pretty normal. Add anything in our methods, make sure we add it to our update. So now we want to focus on our drone hover. So we're going to need a couple things here for the drone hover components. Well, first, we're going to need a float value for the hover amount, how high and how up and down, how much up and down you want to go up. And then the hover speed, how fast you want our drones to hover up and down. Basically, we're going to use this information for like a sine wave. Then we're going to need our hover time. So we're going to be using this to hover up and down. Set it to 0. Use the delta time. Multiplied by our hover speed. And this will be our offset. And we're going to be using a sine to calculate this offset. Hover time. And the hover amount. Then we're going to change our position using this. So we're going to need our start position. So once you've instantiated, grab and cache our start position. Then we're going to use that start position and add our hover offset. And we only want to change our y value here. Calculate new position based on sine wave for smooth hovering. That's not good. Next, we want to work on our fire and our laser. And to do that, we're going to need a few more components. So laser fire components. First, of course, our laser prefab. So you need some PPU there. And then the fire interval, basically the delay between each shot. Fire speed, like laser speed, just how fast the laser is going to be going. We're adding that to our rigid body. Then some kind of error margin, so the positioning of the lasers coming at the player is a little bit more erratic. Fire point is where it's going to be firing it from. So like on a gun will be a nozzle and drone will be just somewhere in front of it. Then some audio source for our laser. Fire timer, just some kind of tracking so we know when you are able to fire again. Fire time is free fire. If a timer is bigger than our fire interval, great, reset it. Now we can fire. So the laser prefab is, if we have a laser prefab and the fire point isn't null, great. Now let's do something. First, instantiate the new laser prefab, object, new laser, instantiate, and we're going to be instantiating at our fire point, that position, and which way it's actually looking. So that specific rotation will help as well. Let's create our error. So random error. So we're going to do a random range between our error points. So right now our error is like 0.1, so a -1 to 1. So anywhere between that range for x and y value. This will create our error that we're going to add to the position of where the player is at, or the player direction the player is. So forward. So fire point of forward is what we want to be looking for, and then we're going to add in our random error. Then next we're going to grab our rigid body off from our new laser. then add that force from the, and multiply by the laser speed. And we're going to do this force impulse. Then we're going to play some audio, some pew pew from our drone. Looks good. First, we're going to drone hover. Then we're going to look at the player. Then we'll be fire our laser. That looks good. Add our drone control to our drone. Create a fire point that's in front of the drone. Add the fire point to our script. Let's create a game object and let's have it hold our audio source. And turn off play on awake. Add in the audio for our lasers. I have some audios for you guys to use, or you can have you're welcome to use your own audio. And next we're going to be creating a laser. So of course we want the laser to be a little bit smaller than our drone, so I'll create it inside our drone so I have some perspective. Use an unlit shader and put it on our laser. Let's move the laser to the front. And let's turn the cube into a 0.2 scale, and we'll keep the Z as a 1. And we'll turn the box collider to a trigger. Add in the destroy self, Unity destroy self script. Lifetime 4 seconds. Turn gravity off, but I still want to be able to use our rigid body with this. And let's add in our laser prefab. Turn it into a prefab, add that prefab back to our drone control script. And back to our laser here. And then we'll go to our sword control. And we'll add our sword control here. So when our sword hits a laser, we want some kind of action. So we're in some kind of sound that we hit that laser. And then make sure we compare the tag. So we're going to have, each of our lasers are going to have a tag, that laser on it. We're going to play a source, then we're going to destroy the laser after we play the sword hit laser sound. Call the cylinder a sword. Add a rich body here, turn off gravity. This is kinematic because we're not actually adding any force to our rigid body here. Looks good. Let's create an audio source. Add our script to the sword and add our audio source to our sword control script that we just created. That's on the sword object. And let's add in the sound for the hit to our audio source. Now make sure play on awake is off. Looks good. Make sure you save everything while the prefab is enabled. Once you save everything, oh yeah, make sure you turn off the mesh first. And then we can turn off our prefab so it doesn't show up. We're gonna go back to our drone. We turn the drone into a prefab. And then we're gonna unpack this one because we're gonna turn this drone in our hierarchy into our drone preview. So make sure the left controller visual is off. Move the drone preview into our right controller. So when you press the right grip, it will be right in front of you. So we call it drone preview, or we're not going to need the FirePoint audio or the script itself. We just need the visual of the mesh itself of our drone. So let's move the drone preview to a 0.5, so it's a little bit in front of our hand. And it's rotated 180 just because I want it to be, when you set it, to actually be start looking at the player already, so it doesn't have to spend time turning. Okay, let's set our drone preview, then set our drone prefab, that's in our prefab folder. And in our laser, make sure you create a laser tag right there. And once you create that laser tag, go ahead and switch the laser tag on to the laser prefab. Laser how many times now? Okay. Looks good. Let's get save. And so made a change of heart here. I want to be, since I want to have a audio source to controlling everything on our SwordPrefab, including turning on and off. So let's use audio clips and play one shot for audio sources. So audio source, play one shot. So then we're going to cache our audio clips. So we're going to have one audio source, multiple audio clips in our script. Then go back to our MotionObjectTracker, which is going to be our sword. And let's have an audio source here. And we're going to add our audio clip for the on and off, the laser on sound. Then let's go to on enable. So when we turn on the tracker, we're going to have a laser on sound and use audio source, play one shot, sword on audio. And let's make sure you add our audio clips and audio sources for MotionObjectTracker and our sword control. That looks good. Notice that ObjectTracker has a speed there from previous testing. Let's go to remove that speed. Don't need that. Make sure you change our prefab. Save it. Looks good. Let's go turn off that prefab. But let's save prefabs here. Let's do some testing. All right, turning it on. And let's go turn off my cool lightsaber greens here. Red when you lose confidence, it's good. Press the A button here and you can see the mesh. You can change positioning. So let's right grip to show the drone. Add some pieces here. And at 2.5 seconds, it'll start shooting. And then some lasers. Awesome. So for things like this, you can have lasers. You can do the same thing with tennis rackets. However you guys want to learn and use this project for whatever you guys purpose for. If you have fun, we hope to see a lot of things from you guys.